Hello, everybody. Welcome to my presentation. Presentation will be about Google Forms on steroids. It is also known as ethical review, as the application was called at the client. First, a little bit about me. For those who do not know me, I am Niels Leijen. I've been developing applications for 8 years, not all in Mendix, but the previous 4 years were in Mendix. I'm an expert Mendix developer. I'm a junior Meetup presenter. This is my first presentation at a Meetup. And I am not so scary as Koen was earlier. So, ethical review questionnaire, as the application is called. Also, don't worry, I only have 4 slides. I'll be talking about the use case of, we built the software for University of Twente. So I'm also going to tell about why we built the app, what is the app, and then most importantly, I'll demo a little bit of the app and show you some of the code that's behind it. Also, if you have any questions, technical difficulties. Oh no. Yeah, just go to Firefox. And then, agenda. Somewhere here. And I think this is the share button. The whole screen. You can turn this off. I was in Edge. Yes. This is fine. All right. Now that you've all seen my very busy agenda. I'll talk a little bit about the use case first. So, University of Twente, they were developing software internally in their company. What they had was a high-code development people. The problem was they didn't have the capacity to build all the software that Twente wanted. So what they wanted was build more things, solve more solutions. So they chose to build an app factory with Mendix, in which they picked a few applications which could perform a lot of value, add a lot of value to the company. One of their biggest applications was ethical review. I'll show you that momentarily. Ethical review was built for all the researchers in University of Twente. So that could be every student, but also every employee who was working there. So why did they want this application? So a university, I'm not sure we studied at a university, I haven't, but I've been told that it's split up into several domains. And if you want to do research at a university, you go to your domain, and if there's maybe some ethical problems with your research, for example, you're doing research on people with drugs, or you're doing research on animals, there's some ethical aspects to that. Every domain had their own way of doing those questionnaires, doing their research into what problems that you could have with that. What they wanted was to get one straight process where you would just go to one portal, pick your domain, fill in the questionnaire, and everything would be handled from there. So that is the problem that was solved with this software. So one unified process. This resulted in a better version management of questionnaires. When you go to the portal and you say, I want to have a new, fill in a new form, fill in a new questionnaire, you always get the latest version and not some Excel that was maybe sent to you via somebody else, which was totally not the latest version, but a version of a year ago. It was a uniform way to work for researchers, so just one portal. There was also workflow management built in. When you would fill in your form, it would go to a supervisor who would review it, and then it would go to a reviewer, and then it would go to an ethical committee, and it would come back to you again if there were some questions and it wasn't complete or whatever. Then there was also the possibility of feedback and requests. So there's a lot of stuff in the application, actually. and I'm going to show you some of it. This is my super awesome recording of my screen, and this is something else. So the application, I'll first log in as a, it's very annoying that I have a microphone in my hands now. We'll get there, What? For real? Yes. Now we're getting there. We're not getting there. Give me 1 sec.
Are you screen sharing this screen as well?
I am, right? Am I not? Yeah.
We're sharing his whole screen.
Okay, so now I'm getting there. So what we see here when you first log in, so I've now logged in as a functional admin. The functional admin is the user that creates the questionnaires. This was done specifically because creating questionnaires was not something that was super easy for everybody to do. So we especially just picked one person who makes forms. So I have made a little bit of a form already for this demo. This is the Spooky Halloween form. A form consists of several sections, and in a section you can add several questions. So I have a section called the spooky stuff, and you can give it a little bit of a description. And you can also add some questions. I've added some questions before. I'll be adding one right now because it's nice to actually add questions. So there's a few questions. So you have the multiple choice, multiple select, comment box. It's some questions you always see. There's also a table question, which I'll come back to later because that was pretty interesting. You can upload some files, there's a date picker. It can read out some personal details if you actually log in via single sign-on, which I can't do here. And some other questions, which I won't be getting into. And you can remove questions also. There is also a question. So there's a neat little feature that if you pick certain answers for a question, you can get follow-up questions on that, or even completely follow-up sections based on that. So for example, if you'll be chasing people with a chainsaw later tonight, and you say, yes, I do, then you can say it has a follow-up question or section. And in this case, it has a follow-up section, which is about the ethical concerns of chasing people with a chainsaw. Which is quite an ethical concern in my opinion. Why? Why? Why would it be? Why would it be? I can close all this stuff here, and here is my ethical concerns of chasing people with a chainsaw. Let me try again what I did earlier and log in as a different user. Please bear with me. So I think my next user will be the I'll just log in as Freddy. And I'll start a new form. So forms are built up of in different ways. In Twente, they wanted every user to first do like a generic kind of form. So everybody had the first, starts with the same section in a form. And at their place, they just asked, like, what is your personal details? What kind of research are you doing? And some other questions like that. So here I've asked, like, do you enjoy Kunsttalk? Like, yes, we do, or maybe we didn't. We can also say maybe, and then it asked me to explain, like, why maybe. But yeah, we did enjoy Kunsttalk, right? So next question is, why did you come to this meetup? We come here for the presentations or the people or the free food. And here is an example of a follow-up question. So if I say I came here for the free drinks, it comes with a follow-up question, in this case 0 to 1. And then it asks me, like, what drink? What is your rating? And do you recommend a drink or not? And if you have more drinks, you can actually add more of these. This was one of the things that they asked me, like, hey, can you build in a table question? And I was like, a table question? Like, what is a table question? And then they explained it to me, and they said, yeah, well, sometimes you do research and you have certain sponsors, and then you actually want to give a list of what you have. So who are the sponsors, how much are sponsoring you with, and that kind of stuff. Because that could be an ethical aspect. If you're doing research into smoking and you're like sponsored by one of the big smoking companies, then could be a problem. So the table question. And this is one of the standard questions, which I'm just going to respond with this one, because I don't want any annoying follow-up questions. And then here we have a list of ethical committees. So this is still the first section, in which then one of the standard questions that always comes up with what ethical committee do you have? Because every ethical committee has their own next part of the form will be the middle part. Every ethical committee has their own form. Mine only has like 1 or 2 sections, as you saw earlier. I've actually seen some of their production data, and they had like 20 pages of questions, over 100 questions to answer. That's a lot. So what we now see, earlier we saw we only had 1 section. Now we can actually see we have an introduction. We have the spooky stuff happens here, the first section. Here's a section that is still hidden. We cannot click on it, but we can see that it might be coming, the ethical concerns of chasing people with a chainsaw. And then the thank you for participating. This is the outro, which is a standard section again. So here we can give a title to our project, like I don't know any title. And then we'll be chasing people with a chainsaw. If I say no, and it stays like this, and I click next, and then I'll actually go to the third one, and we skip the second one completely, because I won't be chasing people with a chainsaw. If I change my mind and I say I will be chasing people with a chainsaw, and I have to fill in this section. And then it only asks me what kind of chainsaw. And it says, thank you for participating. I can now submit this for review, and it will be submitted. So far, the front end of the application. If there's no questions about this, I'll just show a little bit of the code for those who are interested. So what we've seen is the form, and I'll just focus on the form because I don't want to talk for half an hour. There's 3 parts of the form. The first one is creating the form, which is the generate form. And the second one is actually filling in the form, which is done in this module. And then the third one is saving all the data that was entered into the form, which happens in this part. So, as I said earlier, we have a form. Actually, all the data is stored in a form version, because when we make a form, we can publish it, and then we can also work on the next version of the form and publish that later. So we had a form, as we saw earlier. A form has several sections, and a section consists of several questions. Questions can have answers. And then there's this weird little exceptional question, the question table header, in which we could say what our favorite drink was. So for so part, pretty straightforward. The second part is the actual filling in of the form. So this is completely non-persistible. We have our form helper again, we have our form helper. We have the sections, and then we have the questions. Based on what you answer, more or less questions could be created here. For example, with a chainsaw, which I said earlier. We also have our answers. And this is the weird table question again, which is a bit weirder. It can go to max 5 columns, so keep it simple. This is the personal details question and your enrollment in a study. And then here we have how the data is actually saved. So we have a user form, and it says a version. So actually what you fill in and then submit to a committee, and then maybe you get it back with feedback. And then you say, okay, I'm going to edit my form, but you're not actually editing your form. You're copying the whole form, And then you create a new version based on that. And that way we can also track what the changes were with the last version. Because as I said, when you have 20 sections with hundreds of questions, but you only changed like 3 questions, you're only interested in the changes in the 3 questions and not in the whole form. So we're keeping versions of this. And then the answers and an answer document, which is stored here. And this is, for the most part, the whole application. Are there any questions so far? I see one question.
Yeah. Did you also make like a presentation of the answers? How much time a certain answer was filled in or something like that? Like the Power BI section of your application?
Yes, they... Oh yeah, sorry. So the question was if we also keep track of how certain questions were answered, how many times yes or no or that kind of stuff. We had that request and we did think about it, but in the end the forms do change a lot. So the domains do update their forms, so it would be stuck to a form version of a certain domain. So the data would always be limited because when you start a new form, all your questions kind of change. So we thought about it, but we didn't do it in the end. No.
Another question.
Yes.
Did they also talk about using forms from Microsoft for this application?
Maybe not forms from Microsoft. Oh, sorry, did they also? I'll do this again. I'll do this 3 times. Did I think about using other applications, like forms from Microsoft or forms from Google for this problem? They did build a different solution for which I did see what they actually built, but it didn't really fit the requirements from all the different domains of the university. And they were really, really picky in what they wanted in the app. So this was also kind of an app that had some risk with it when we actually built it. But because it's custom software, we could build whatever they wanted. So yes.
Question.
Yes.
A lot of the functionality looks like the questionnaire module, but
Mhm.
you have decided to build from scratch a custom solution. What were the considerations there?
Yeah, so a lot of what we built looks like a standard questionnaire, but instead we decided to build it in Mendix and not use one of the standard solutions from the market. This time I did repeat the question. So, yeah, like I said earlier already, they were really picky about what they wanted to have in the app and not wanted to have in the app. And like every domain, I've actually been told that you can compare it to like kings who are sitting high in their castles and have like really high demands. That was the reason why they could not decide on any of the standard software out there in the market, but they specifically wanted their own software built.
Right.
Are there any other questions? Are there anything you want to see, or is everybody ready for more drinks? Or